There's a story behind every car, but in the case of GVE London's collapse, some stories have gone missing, along with the cars themselves. When the luxury dealership went under, millions of pounds were left unaccounted for, dozens of angry buyers were left stranded, and one question began echoing across the UK's supercar community. Where did the cars go? Among the most haunting mysteries is the fate of a rare white Lexus LFA, one of just 500 ever built, a machine that once gleamed under the fluorescent lights of GVE's West London showroom before vanishing without a trace. This wasn't just about one car. Customers swore they had placed deposits on Ferraris, Lamborghinis, even McLarens, cars that were supposed to be sitting safely in the dealership's inventory. But as GVE's empire crumbled, so did the paper trail. Titles didn't match. Logbooks were missing. In some cases, the same car had been promised to two different buyers. What had once been a showroom filled with the world's most desirable machines turned into an echo chamber of lawsuits, debt collectors, and whispers about vehicles spirited away to secret warehouses or shipped overseas in the dead of night. To the average person, the loss of a car is an inconvenience. To the kind of customers who walked through GVE's glass doors, these weren't just cars. They were rolling works of art, investments worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of pounds. And suddenly, they were gone. The collapse of GVE London left behind more than angry creditors. It left behind a mystery that still lingers today, one that turns every sighting of a rare LFA, every exotic Ferrari at auction, into a question mark. Could it be one of the missing cars? In this video, we're going to trace the story of those lost supercars, peeling back the glossy marketing, the showroom glamour, and the Instagram posts to uncover what really happened to the machines that symbolize GVE London's rise and its chaotic fall. Long before the headlines about lawsuits and bankruptcy, GVE London had built an image that seemed almost untouchable. The company presented itself as one of the UK's premier destinations for exotic cars, a place where a billionaire's son or a young entrepreneur flush with crypto gains could step into a glossy showroom and see their dreams reflected back in polished carbon fiber. The early years were marked by steady growth, clever marketing, and most importantly, the presence of cars that seemed almost mythical. The Lexus LFA, especially the white one that became the talk of London's car scene, was more than just inventory. It was a status symbol for the dealership itself. When enthusiasts saw that car parked under the lights, framed by GVE's branded backdrops, it gave an unspoken guarantee of credibility. After all, if a dealer could showcase one of the rarest Japanese supercars ever made, it surely must be legitimate. Alongside it came a parade of Ferraris, 488s and 812s with their scarlet paint catching every reflection, as well as Lamborghinis with aggressive lines that practically screamed wealth and exclusivity. Each car wasn't just a product to sell, it was a billboard for the brand. Customers didn't just come to GVE for a transaction, they came for the experience of stepping into a temple of speed and extravagance. The staff encouraged photo ops, social media posts, and a sense that buying or even browsing at GVE was a brush with a lifestyle of limitless luxury. The early strategy worked. The dealership became a recognizable name, with its showroom featured in countless Instagram reels and YouTube walkarounds. Those images of rare cars sitting quietly under showroom spotlights began to spread like wildfire across the car community, further cementing GVE's reputation. But behind the curtains of glass and light, there was a critical detail often overlooked: ownership. Many of these early headline-grabbing cars weren't bought outright by the dealership. Some were consignments, others were financed, and a few may have simply been borrowed long enough for a photo shoot. To the average person, none of that mattered. They saw a rare Lexus LFA or a glistening Ferrari and assumed it was proof of GVE's financial strength. In reality, it was a carefully maintained illusion, one that laid the foundation for both the rise of the company's profile and the cracks that would eventually tear it apart. As GVE London gained traction, the business entered what looked like its golden era. Videos of the showroom began circulating widely, showing pristine Lamborghinis with scissor doors raised, Ferraris glinting in their unmistakable red, and the white Lexus LFA taking center stage like a crown jewel. Social media became the company's stage, and it played the role perfectly. Instagram stories, TikTok clips, and YouTube walkarounds weren't just marketing tools, they were instruments of seduction. They told a story of success, exclusivity, and stability. The effect was powerful. For car enthusiasts and potential buyers, GVE appeared to be the real deal. Customers would scroll through endless posts of exotic machinery lined up like trophies and believe they were dealing with a dealership at the peak of its game. These posts served as silent endorsements, encouraging people to hand over deposits and trust GVE with sums of money that would make most banks nervous. The presence of legendary cars like the Lexus LFA, a machine whispered about in the supercar world for its rarity and soundtrack, amplified that trust. It suggested wealth, connections, and legitimacy. But beneath the sheen of growth lay a troubling truth. Many of the cars were not owned by GVE at all. The Lamborghini Huracan that appeared in one reel might have been under finance. The Ferrari 488 could have been a consignment car, temporarily resting under GVE's roof while ownership remained elsewhere. Even the LFA, the shining centerpiece of the collection, had an unclear paper trail. To the public, however, these details were irrelevant. They saw cars that few dealerships could ever dream of showcasing, and they equated that with success. This growth phase was a masterclass in optics. The more cars GVE displayed, the more buyers lined up, the more content was posted, the more credibility was assumed. Customers flocked in not just to buy, but to belong, to feel connected to the lifestyle promised by GVE's curated stage. The business model depended less on transparent transactions and more on maintaining the image of abundance and prestige. As long as the showroom looked full and the internet buzzed with images of unattainable machines, GVE seemed unstoppable. But this strategy was like building a skyscraper on quicksand. With each new promise made, each deposit taken, and each car displayed without true ownership, the risks compounded. Growth fed on illusion, and for a time, illusion was enough. Yet the higher the facade climbed, the more catastrophic the fall would be when reality finally caught up.
The cracks in GVE London's empire became impossible to ignore once money stopped flowing as freely as the social media posts suggested. Customers began arriving at the dealership expecting to pick up their long-awaited supercars, only to be met with vague excuses or outright silence. The glittering facade of the showroom could no longer hide the mounting chaos behind closed doors. At the center of the unraveling was the question of ownership. For years, GVE had blurred the line between what was truly theirs and what was on loan, finance, or consignment. When creditors and customers came knocking, the paperwork didn't match the promises. Titles were missing, logbooks couldn't be found, and in some cases, two different buyers had been told the same car was theirs. The rare white Lexus LFA, once the jewel in GVE's crown, suddenly became the subject of fierce debate. Who really owned it? Some claimed it was quietly shipped abroad before legal action could seize it. Others whispered that it was being hidden away in a storage unit waiting for the storm to pass. Ferraris and Lamborghinis fared no better. Customers claimed they had paid deposits or even full balances, only to discover that the cars were never properly in GVE's possession. A Ferrari 488 might have been pledged as collateral to a bank while simultaneously being promised to a new buyer. A Lamborghini Huracan could appear on a sales listing one day and vanish from the showroom the next, its trail obscured by shell companies and layers of financing agreements. The collapse wasn't sudden. It was a slow-motion disaster visible in plain sight. Angry customers gathered outside the dealership, waving contracts and demanding answers. Online forums buzzed with stories of broken promises and missing cars. Meanwhile, authorities and the DVLA were flooded with disputes, each one a tangled web of conflicting claims. For every car that could be traced, another seemed to slip through the cracks entirely. What had once been a symbol of success, the ability to showcase rare, exotic cars, now became the clearest evidence of failure. The very vehicles that built GVE's reputation were at the heart of its downfall. ensnared in a labyrinth of lawsuits, unpaid debts, and bitter accusations. And as the dust settled, the legend of the missing cars only grew darker, transforming from showroom centerpiece to scandalous mystery. Today, long after GVE London shut its showroom doors, the shadow of those missing supercars still lingers. For many former customers, the collapse wasn't just about losing money. It was about losing trust in an institution they believed represented the pinnacle of luxury. Some lawsuits have been resolved, others are still tied up in the courts, and in many cases, the buyers who put down life-changing sums of money have been left with nothing but frustration and paperwork that leads to nowhere. The cars themselves have become ghost stories. A few have resurfaced in auction houses, their histories murky and their legal ownership challenged. A red Ferrari 488 that once sat in GVE's glass showroom suddenly appeared at a European auction, sparking heated speculation. Was it the same car promised to a customer years before? And if so, how did it end up across borders without a clear transfer of ownership? The Lamborghini Huracan that featured in GVE's most viewed social media videos was rumored to be repossessed by a finance company, though no one can confirm where it ended up. But the car that captures the most attention is still the white Lexus LFA. Enthusiast forums treat it almost like an urban legend. Posts speculate whether it's hidden in a private collection, quietly registered under a new identity, or perhaps even shipped to the Middle East or Asia, where ownership trails are notoriously difficult to trace. Every time a white LFA pops up in photos online, people ask, is that the missing one? The question remains unanswered. The broader community has taken notice too. Groups on Facebook and Reddit still discuss the lost GVE cars, with members trading rumors, screenshots of old listings, and theories about where the vehicles might be. For many, the cars have taken on a symbolic role, representing the arrogance and recklessness of a dealership that promised the world but couldn't deliver. Even official bodies have struggled to resolve the mess. The DVLA has faced disputes over logbooks and titles, while creditors continue to argue who has legitimate claims to the vehicles. The truth is, the collapse created a legal maze so complicated that even seasoned lawyers admit some cases may never be fully untangled. The result? A fleet of rare and exotic cars now exists in a kind of limbo, part myth, part asset, and part evidence in one of the UK's most dramatic dealership failures. The collapse of GVE London wasn't just another failed dealership. It was a cautionary tale about how easily trust can be manufactured and how quickly it can vanish. The missing cars became the ultimate symbol of that downfall. They weren't just machines, they were promises. Each Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, and above all, the white Lexus LFA represented the illusion of security the customers believed they were buying into. When those promises evaporated, so too did the faith in GVE's glossy brand. The legend of the white LFA in particular endures because it embodies everything the scandal stood for: rarity, prestige, and a vanishing act that mirrored the company's own disappearance. Enthusiasts still speak about it in hushed tones, pointing to grainy photos online and asking if it could be the same car. In that sense, it has transcended being just a vehicle. It's now a ghost, haunting the memory of a collapse that left behind more questions than answers. For the broader supercar community, the GVE story reinforced a hard truth. Luxury is not always synonymous with stability. A gleaming showroom and rare inventory can mask a fragile business model built on borrowed assets and broken promises. The missing cars are reminders that in this world of high-stakes transactions, what you see is not always what you get. And yet the mystery is part of what keeps the story alive. As long as collectors, enthusiasts, and former customers continue to speculate, the myth of the lost supercars will endure. They've become more than just physical assets. They're narrative artifacts, fueling conversations about greed, deception, and the seductive power of image. So perhaps the real question isn't whether those cars will ever resurface. It's whether their absence has taught us enough to prevent history from repeating itself. For now, the white Lexus LFA remains. Missing, the Ferraris and Lamborghinis remain disputed, and GVE London remains a warning etched into the history of the UK car market. What do you think? Could the missing LFA be tucked away in a private collection, or did it vanish forever into the black hole of legal disputes? Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to dive deeper into the rise and fall of brands, scandals, and the stories behind them, don't forget to subscribe.